She tasted his blood and froze. That was not supposed to happen. In every battle she had fought, across 100 conquered systems, this moment was always the same. Thing met flesh. Life ended. Silence followed. But this time, this human was still breathing. Still moving. Still very much alive. The war burned across the stars like an open wound. Human ships were dying in clusters, their metal bodies torn apart by alien plasma. Explosions painted the void in violent colors as the last human fleet scattered, running instead of fighting. Among them drifted a single damaged vessel, barely holding together, engines coughing like a wounded animal. Inside that ship stood a man named Elias Cade. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was an engineer who had been in the wrong place when the war reached his station. His hands shook as alarms screamed around him, red lights flashing like a heartbeat about to fail. Hull breaches. Power loss. Life support unstable. Then the air rippled. The alien boarded without sound. She stepped out of folded space as if reality itself opened a door for her. Tall, pale, elegant, and terrifying. Her species called themselves the Virethi, a race that fed on neural energy and blood, warriors shaped by centuries of conquest. Her silver eyes glowed faintly as she scanned the bridge. This ship was already dead. Then Elias turned. "Oh," he said. "That's not maintenance." She moved faster than thought. One moment she was across the room, the next she had him pinned against the console. Her grip was iron. His pulse thundered under her fingers. She inhaled, savoring the scent of human fear mixed with adrenaline. Her fangs pierced his neck. Warm blood filled her mouth. She drank. And waited for him to die. Instead, Elias coughed. He choked, gasped, and somehow laughed weakly. "Wow, okay, not how I expected today to go." Her eyes widened. That was impossible. She pulled back instantly, staring at him in disbelief. His blood burned in her veins, strange, reactive, almost aggressive. Her body rejected it, not with pain, but with confusion. Her systems screamed warnings she had never experienced. "I bit him," she whispered. "I drained him." Elias swallowed, hands trembling as he pressed fingers to his bleeding neck. "Yeah," he said hoarsely. "I noticed." He was still standing. Still conscious. Still alive. The ship shuddered violently as another explosion rocked the hull. Enemy vessels were closing in. The Virethi warrior should have finished him immediately. That was protocol. That was instinct. But she hesitated. "You should be dead," she said. Elias blinked at her. "Yeah. I've been getting that a lot lately." She stared as he staggered to a control panel and began rerouting power with shaking hands. His movements were clumsy but determined. No training. No combat discipline. Just raw stubbornness. "What are you?" she asked. He snorted. "Human. Unfortunately." Her species had studied humans for years. Fragile bodies. Short lives. Predictable tactics. Easy prey. And yet here stood one who had survived a Virethi feeding bite. That should not exist. The ship lurched again. A warning tone screamed as engines failed completely. Elias looked over at her. "So, you here to kill me, or can you help me not explode?" She should have ended him. Instead, she looked at the collapsing displays, then back at the bleeding, unbroken human. "This vessel will not survive," she said. "Yeah," Elias replied. "That's kind of my whole problem." Another blast struck nearby, throwing them both off balance. She moved without thinking, catching him before he hit the deck. For a split second, their eyes met, hers glowing silver, his wide with fear and defiance. Her grip softened. That surprised her more than anything. "You are damaged," she said, mostly to herself. He laughed weakly. "Buddy, you have no idea." Enemy ships began locking weapons. The human ship had seconds left. The Virethi warrior made a choice that would have shocked her commanders. She helped him. She reached past him, hands flying across alien and human controls alike, merging technologies that were never meant to work together. Elias watched in awe as she rerouted power through systems he didn't even know existed. "How do you know how to do that?" he asked. "I am trained for war," she replied. "Cool," he said. "I fix broken coffee machines." Together, they forced the engines to fire once, just once, enough to fling the ship into the debris field of a shattered moon. Massive rocks tumbled around them, confusing sensors and breaking pursuit formation. The ship slammed hard into partial cover. Silence followed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Elias slid down against the wall, breathing hard. Blood soaked his collar, but the bleeding had slowed. His heartbeat was strong. Too strong. The Virethi warrior stared at him like a puzzle she could not solve. "My name is Sereth Val," she said finally. "And you should not exist." Elias looked up at her and grinned through the pain. "Yeah. I get that a lot." She knelt beside him, eyes narrowing as her scanners failed to understand what they were reading. Human biology adapting. Reacting. Fighting back. Her bite had not weakened him. It had triggered something. Outside, the war raged on. Humanity was losing. Their fleets were breaking. Their colonies were burning. But inside a broken ship, one impossible human had survived what no one else ever had. And Sereth Val realized something deeply unsettling. If one human could survive her bite, what else could humans survive? The Virethi warrior should have killed him in the silence. Sereth Val stood over Elias Cade as the ship drifted in the shadow of tumbling moon debris. Her fingers still smelled like his blood. Her mind still replayed the moment he should have collapsed. Every instinct screamed that letting him live was a mistake. Yet the human was breathing steadily now, like his body had decided the universe could wait. Elias pushed himself upright with a grunt. "Okay," he said, voice rough. "I'm officially filing a complaint with reality." Seretha's eyes narrowed. "Do not move." He raised both hands. "Not moving. Just existing. Against your wishes." She watched the wound on his neck. It was closing. Not fast enough to be impossible, but fast enough to be wrong. Human tissue should not respond that way after Virethi venom entered the bloodstream. The venom was designed to paralyze, to quiet the nervous system, to stop the heart gently so the prey's panic wouldn't taint the feed. Elias's heart had not stopped. It had gotten stronger. Sereth leaned closer, studying him like a scientist forced to admit her equations were lying. "What did you consume before I boarded?" Elias blinked. A protein bar. 2 cups of burned coffee. And 1 questionable energy drink that tasted like battery acid. She didn't understand half the words, but she understood the tone. Casual. Unafraid. Mocking death itself. That, too, was wrong. Outside, faint sensor pings echoed across the bridge. Enemy patrol drones were searching the debris field. The war didn't care about mysteries. Sereth looked at the damaged consoles. "Your ship is crippled." Elias nodded. "Yep." "You will be found." "Also yep." "Then you will die." Elias paused. "Okay, that one I'd like to negotiate." Seretha's long gaze flicked across him. "You have no leverage." Elias coughed once, winced, then pointed at his neck. "Except apparently I'm hard to kill. That's new." Sereth hated that he was right. She went to the navigation station, her hands moving with precise, graceful speed. Alien symbols shimmered as she forced her own interface through the human system. The ship resisted like an injured animal. Sparks leapt. Something groaned deep in the hull. Elias crawled toward the engineering panel, pulling a loose cable from under his seat. "Look, lady, Sereth, right? If we're gonna survive, we need a plan that doesn't involve sit here and hope the universe gets nice." Sereth didn't look away from the screen. "Hope is for prey." Elias grinned despite the pain. "Cool. Then let's be predators." That made her glance up. Humans didn't speak like that. Humans begged. Humans ran. Humans screamed. They didn't offer strategy while bleeding. Sereth found herself listening. Elias tapped the console with a finger. Your ships are hunting us by heat, signal emissions, and movement, right? Yes, Sereth replied cautiously. Our drones are linked to a shared grid. They triangulate targets with flawless precision. Elias nodded as if she'd just explained a broken toaster. Great. So we give them flawless data. Sereth frowned. That makes no sense. It will, Elias said, and yanked the cable free with a shower of sparks. Trust me. Humans are very good at being annoying in systems that expect obedience. He began ripping open a panel and pulling out a box of old components, half-melted chips, spare wiring, a cracked communication relay. The ship looked like junk, but Elias handled the scraps like priceless treasure. Sereth watched him work. There was a rhythm to it. Not elegant like Virethi engineering, more like a desperate musician improvising in the middle of a burning theater. What are you building? She asked. Elias didn't answer right away. He connected a wire to another wire that absolutely should not have been connected to that wire, then leaned back and squinted. A lie. Sereth's expression sharpened. Explain. Elias pointed at the debris field outside. We can't outrun your fleet. So we make them chase ghosts. We make them waste time, fuel, formations. We make them doubt their own sensors. Sereth's ears twitched slightly, a sign of irritation. Our sensors do not doubt. Elias smiled wider. Then we break them. The drone pings grew louder. A small patrol unit had entered the field. Sereth's body tensed instantly. Her hand went to the blade at her waist, an alien weapon that hummed with quiet hunger. She could kill drones, yes, but not enough. Not forever. Elias didn't reach for a weapon. He reached for his toolkit. He slid a coin-sized device into the damaged relay. Okay, he muttered. Come on, do the thing. Sereth stared. You built that in 2 minutes. Elias shrugged. Humans are a learn-by-fear species. A drone passed close enough that the bridge lights dimmed under its scanning beam. Its sensor pulse washed over the ship like cold rain. Sereth held her breath. Elias whispered, now. He flipped a switch. The ship went dead. Not powered down, dead. Total silence. No heat signature. No signal. No drift correction. Even the faint hum of life support faded into a terrifying stillness. Sereth's eyes widened. You shut down oxygen. Elias nodded calmly. For 10 seconds. Humans cannot survive without oxygen for. Hold your breath, Elias whispered. Sereth didn't need oxygen, not the way humans did, but watching a human willingly step into suffocation was like watching prey jump into a predator's mouth for fun. The drone's scan intensified. Then the device Elias built triggered. A false signal flared from a different chunk of debris. Bright, loud, unmistakably human ship. The drone instantly snapped toward the fake target. It moved away. 10 seconds passed. Elias flipped the switch again. Air returned. Lights returned. Alarms returned. Elias sucked in a breath and laughed like a man who had just won a game. See? Ghost. Sereth stared at the screen as the drone chased the fake signature straight into a collision course with rotating debris. A moment later, the drone shattered. Sereth's mouth parted slightly. No Virethi tactic involved lying to sensors like that. They preferred brute precision. Overwhelming force. Clean kills. The idea of turning their own certainty against them was offensive. And brilliant. Elias leaned back, wiping sweat from his face. We can do that again. And again. Keep throwing ghosts until the fleet thinks this debris field is haunted. Sereth watched him as if she was seeing humans for the first time. You are not trained, she said. Elias shook his head. Nope. You are injured. Also yes. You should be afraid. Elias paused, then spoke softer. I am afraid. That surprised her. His voice carried no shame, only honesty. But humans do something weird when we're afraid, Elias continued. We start inventing. Sereth felt something shift in her chest, an unfamiliar pressure. Not hunger. Not rage. Something else. Outside, more drones entered the debris field. Their grid tightened, scanning patterns overlapping like a net. Elias's fake signature device would buy time, not salvation. Sereth stepped closer, looking down at him. Your lie will fail eventually. Elias nodded. Yeah. Everything fails eventually. She studied him, then asked the question that had been burning in her mind since the bite. Why did you survive me? Elias blinked. I don't know. Sereth's eyes narrowed as she reached out and gently touched his neck, right near the wound. Elias flinched, but didn't pull away. Sereth whispered, almost to herself, your blood reacted. It fought back. Elias tried to joke, but his smile was smaller now. Maybe I'm allergic to vampires. Sereth didn't laugh. Instead, she lifted her gaze to the stars beyond the cracked viewport. The war was bigger than this ship. Bigger than both of them. But now, a new variable existed, something the Virethi command had not predicted. A human who could resist Virethi feeding. If Elias was not unique, if this could be replicated, then the war could change. Sereth looked back at him, her voice low and serious. Human. Elias raised an eyebrow. Yeah. You may be the most dangerous accident in this galaxy. Elias swallowed, staring at the swarm of drones approaching on the screen. Cool, he murmured. No pressure. The ship trembled again as debris scraped the hull. Sereth's eyes sharpened into battle focus. Your ghosts bought us minutes, she said. Now we need a miracle. Elias's gaze flicked over the broken systems, then down to the blood still staining his shirt. His fingers tightened around his toolkit. He exhaled slowly. Okay, he said. Then let's do what humans do best. Sereth's ears twitched. And what is that? Elias looked up at her with a grin that carried exhaustion, fear, and stubborn fire all at once. We steal the impossible. The miracle did not arrive quietly. It began with pain. Elias screamed as his body locked up without warning. His fingers clenched so hard around the toolkit that metal bent. Every muscle tightened at once, like invisible hands pulling him apart from the inside. Sereth spun toward him instantly, blade in hand. What is happening? Elias collapsed to his knees, gasping. I don't know. The wound on his neck burned white-hot. Lines of faint light pulsed beneath his skin, branching outward like veins made of fire. The ship's lights flickered in response, as if reacting to him. Sereth froze. Virethi technology did not respond to humans. Ever. Yet the consoles around Elias began lighting up, dormant systems flickering to life. Power surged through circuits that had been dead minutes before. Sereth stared in disbelief. Your body is interfacing with the ship. Elias laughed weakly through clenched teeth. That's new. The pain peaked, then broke like a wave crashing against rock. Elias slumped forward, breathing hard, sweat dripping from his brow. The glowing lines faded, but something had changed. The ship hummed. Not damaged. Not dying. Alive. Sereth turned slowly, scanning the displays. Shields were stabilizing. Power output was rising, beyond design limits. The human vessel was doing something no Virethi engineer would have approved. It was adapting. How? She whispered. Elias pushed himself upright, shaky but conscious. I think, your bite did something. Sereth's eyes snapped to him. Explain. I can't, Elias said honestly. But when you bit me, it felt like my blood got angry. Sereth's breath caught. Virethi venom was engineered to override nervous systems, to impose control. But human biology was chaotic, aggressive, full of redundancies and chemical warfare inside a single body. Instead of surrendering, Elias's blood had fought. And learned. Outside, the drone swarm shifted formation. They had detected the power surge. The ghosts were no longer enough. Sereth straightened. We must flee. Now. Elias shook his head. We can't outrun them. Then we die. Not yet. He limped to the main console, placing both hands against the surface. The screen flared, responding instantly, too instantly. Sereth watched in stunned silence as the ship's interface rearranged itself around Elias's touch. Symbols simplified. Pathways rerouted. The ship was reshaping itself to his instincts, not logic. You are commanding it, Sereth said. Elias swallowed. Feels more like, it's listening. The first alien cruiser entered firing range. Sereth drew her blade. I will hold them. Elias glanced at her, surprised. You'll die. She met his gaze calmly. I was prepared for that long before I met you. Something twisted in Elias's chest. No, he said. That's not how this ends. He closed his eyes. And made a choice. He pushed. Every fear, every stubborn refusal to quit, every moment humans had ever looked at the impossible and said no, not today, he poured it into the ship. The engines screamed. Space itself bent. The human freighter did not jump to hyperspace. It tore a hole sideways. Sereth was thrown off her feet as gravity twisted violently. The stars outside stretched, warped, folded like reflections in broken glass. Alarms howled, then cut off abruptly. The pursuing cruiser fired. Its shot vanished into nothing. The human ship vanished with it. Silence. They reappeared seconds later inside a dead system, an ancient graveyard of shattered megastructures drifting around a cold, dying star. Sereth rose slowly, disbelief written across her features. That maneuver is impossible. Elias lay on the floor, chest heaving. Yeah, but it worked. He laughed weakly, then coughed hard. Sereth was beside him instantly, catching him before he hit the deck again. His skin burned under her touch, his heartbeat thunderous. You are burning yourself alive, she said. Worth it, Elias murmured. Sereth hesitated, then did something unthinkable. She pressed her palm against his chest and fed energy back into him. Not venom, not hunger, but stabilizing force. Virethi warriors could do that, but it was never used on prey. Elias gasped as warmth spread through him, steadying the fire inside. Their eyes met. For the first time, Sereth did not see prey. She saw a weapon that had chosen mercy. Outside the ship, the ancient structures drifted, remnants of a civilization older than the Virethi, older than recorded war. Massive rings, broken cities, weapons long dead. Sereth's voice was quiet. This place is forbidden. Elias opened one eye. Why? Because something here killed 1,000 empires. That got his attention. He slowly sat up, staring out the viewport. Cool, he muttered. No pressure. Sensors flared suddenly, not with threat, but with recognition. The ruins were activating. Lights rippled across ancient metal as systems woke from eons of silence. The structures were not abandoned. They were waiting. Sereth felt fear for the first time in centuries. We must leave. Elias shook his head. They already noticed us. The ship's systems chimed softly. A message appeared, not in alien script, not in human language, but in something simpler. Shapes. Patterns. Logic stripped down to its core. Sereth stared. It is responding to you. Elias frowned. No. It's responding to us. The message resolved into meaning. Biological variant detected. Non-compliant bloodline. Potential catalyst confirmed. Sereth's breath hitched. The ancient machines had detected Elias's blood anomaly. And they liked it. What does that mean? Elias asked. Sereth swallowed. It means the war is no longer just between humans and Virethi. Outside, deep within the ruins, something enormous began to move. Elias tightened his grip on the console. Okay, he said quietly. New plan. Sereth looked at him, silver eyes reflecting ancient light. Humans make plans in moments like this. Elias smiled, tired, terrified, unbreakable. We make history. Far away, the Virethi command detected the impossible jump, the energy spike, the ancient system awakening. For the first time, the hunters hesitated. Because something had changed. A human had survived the bite. And the universe had noticed. The ruins did not wake up all at once. They woke like a thinking creature, slow, deliberate, curious. Massive rings of metal shifted in the distance, grinding softly as ancient systems reactivated after millions of silent years. Energy flowed through pathways older than the Virethi Empire, older than recorded memory. The dead star at the system's center flickered faintly, as if something was siphoning power from its last breath. Sereth Val stood rigid, her instincts screaming danger. This place does not choose sides, she said quietly. It erases them. Elias Cade swallowed, eyes locked on the impossible structures forming patterns around their ship. Then let's hope it likes underdogs. The ship trembled, not from damage, but alignment. It was being gently pulled, guided into a precise orbit by invisible forces. No weapons locked on. No threats issued. Observation. Sereth felt exposed in a way no battlefield had ever made her feel. We are being evaluated. Story of my life, Elias muttered. A beam of pale light brushed the hull, passing through metal as if it were mist. Elias flinched as it washed over him, every cell in his body buzzing like static. Images flooded his mind, stars forming, civilizations rising and collapsing, wars fought and forgotten. He gasped, gripping the console. Sereth, it's looking at everything. She stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Describe what you see. Elias's voice shook. They weren't conquerors. They were curators. They waited for species that could break patterns. Species that didn't obey design limits. Sereth stiffened. And what did they do to the others? Elias swallowed hard. They tested them. Outside the ship, a colossal structure unfolded like a mechanical flower. At its center, something glowed, not a weapon, not a machine, but a presence. The ancient system spoke. Not in sound. In certainty. Humans are chaotic. Chaos disrupts stagnation. Stagnation leads to extinction. Seretha's knees nearly buckled. Elias whispered, "It's on our side." The presence did not answer directly. Instead, it showed them something. Across the galaxy, human worlds burned. Fleets shattered. Refugee ships hunted down and destroyed. The war was nearing its end, and not in humanity's favor. Then the vision shifted. Human engineers rerouting power with broken tools. Pilots flying damaged ships long past safe limits. Soldiers holding lines with empty rifles because retreat meant extinction. The presence focused on one truth. Humans refused to stop. Resilience detected. Adaptation rate. Unsustainable. Probability of galactic disruption. High. Seretha's breath caught. They see you as a threat. Elias nodded slowly. Yeah. We get that a lot. The ancient presence continued. Question. Should humanity be eradicated? Or unleashed? Silence stretched painfully long. Sereth felt something crack inside her. The Virethi believed themselves apex predators, chosen by evolution to rule. And yet these ancient beings didn't even consider them relevant to the decision. Elias stepped forward. He didn't know why. He just knew he had to. If you're asking, he said aloud, voice steady despite everything, then maybe you already know the answer. The light intensified. Justify. Elias thought of Earth. Of people who laughed during blackouts. Of engineers fixing machines with duct tape and hope. Of children drawing stars they'd never see. We don't win because we're strong, he said. We win because we don't quit. And when we fall, we change. Sereth watched him, stunned. Elias continued. Quieter now. If you erase us, the galaxy stays the same. Powerful empires. Clean wars. Predictable endings. But if you let us live. He looked up at the ancient machine god. We'll break everything that deserves breaking. The presence paused. That pause echoed across the galaxy. Then, decision made. Energy surged. The ruins shifted violently, channels opening, systems unlocking. A wave of data exploded outward, faster than light, riding ancient networks that still threaded through forgotten space. Across the galaxy, Virethi command centers screamed in alarm as their systems malfunctioned. Targeting grids failed. Predictive models collapsed. Their flawless certainty shattered overnight. Sereth felt it instantly. They've given you something. Elias staggered as information flooded him. Not control, not obedience, but access. The ability to interfere. To introduce chaos into rigid systems. I don't know how to use this, he whispered. The presence responded once more. You will learn. You always do. Then the light faded. The ruins went still. The ancient system returned to dormancy. As if its role was finished. Elias collapsed into a chair, breathing hard. Okay, he said weakly. That's officially the most stressful conversation I've ever had. Sereth stared at him. A single human. Bleeding. Improvising. Accidentally chosen by beings older than time. The implications hit her like a plasma strike. If the Virethi learn this, she said, voice tight, they will fear your species. Elias glanced up. Good. She studied him carefully. Fear leads to desperation. He smiled faintly. So does hope. Alarms suddenly blared again. Sereth turned sharply. They found us. Multiple jump signatures lit up the sensors, Virethi warships, far more than before. They had followed the energy echo. They were coming in force. Sereth drew her blade. This ends here. Elias stood slowly, hands resting on the console. He could feel the ancient access humming beneath his skin, waiting for intent. No, he said calmly. This is where it begins. Sereth looked at him. Not as prey. Not as ally. But as something far more dangerous. A human who had been noticed by the universe, and refused to be quiet. Outside, the Virethi fleet emerged from hyperspace. Inside, Elias Cade smiled. Let's teach them, he said, why humans are bad at dying. The Virethi fleet arrived like a judgment. Hundreds of warships tore out of hyperspace around the dead star, their hulls sharp and perfect, weapons already charging. Formation locked. Targeting grids aligned. To them, the human freighter drifting among ancient ruins was a mistake that needed correcting. Sereth Val felt the familiar calm of imminent battle settle into her bones. This many ships, she said quietly, means they fear you now. Elias Cade exhaled slowly. Good. Fear makes people sloppy. Sereth almost smiled. The first Virethi cruiser powered its main weapon. Space itself bent as energy gathered, enough to erase the ruins, the ship, and everything in between. Elias placed his hand on the console. He didn't command. He asked. The ancient access responded. Not with obedience, but with permission. Across the battlefield, Virethi systems began to whisper lies to their own crews. Range calculations drifted by fractions of a percent. Target locks lagged by microseconds. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. But enough. The first shot fired. It missed. That had never happened before. Seretha's eyes widened. They missed. Elias swallowed. Okay, that worked. The second volley came from 3 ships at once. 2 collided with each other mid-fire, shields flaring uselessly as their own targeting grids disagreed on reality. The third shot detonated early, ripping apart its own emitter. Panic rippled through the Virethi fleet. Their doctrine depended on certainty. On flawless execution. Chaos was not in their language. Sereth watched command channels flood with confusion. They don't understand. Elias leaned forward, sweat dripping from his brow. Neither do I. I'm just nudging. He nudged again. Human refugee ships, scattered, hiding, nearly out of fuel, felt it instantly. Systems stabilized. Jump routes opened where none had existed. Warning signals cleared like fog lifting at dawn. Across the galaxy, humans felt something shift. Not power. Permission. On a burning colony world, a human pilot rerouted engines that should not have functioned and escaped orbit. On a shattered station, engineers forced life support to run on scraps and stubbornness alone. On a battlefield, human soldiers found alien weapons misfiring at the worst possible moments. It wasn't domination. It was imbalance. And imbalance was enough. Sereth stared at the tactical display. You are not controlling the war. Elias shook his head. No. I'm just making it unfair. The Virethi flagship moved forward, overriding damaged fleet protocols. Its commander's voice cut through the chaos. Cold, furious. Destroy the human vessel. All costs. Sereth tensed. That ship carries command override. Elias closed his eyes. The ancient access burned brighter, hotter. It wasn't infinite. He could feel the strain. His blood hummed violently, every nerve screaming that this was too much. Sereth stepped closer. You will die if you continue. Elias smiled faintly. Yeah. That sounds about right. She grabbed his arm. You matter. The words surprised them both. Elias opened his eyes and met her gaze. So does everyone else. He pushed one last time. Not at the fleet. At the idea of war itself. Every Virethi ship received the same impossible data packet, ancient, undeniable, and absolute. A record of extinct empires. Of predators who believed themselves eternal. Of civilizations erased not by enemies, but by rigidity. The message ended with a single truth. Adapt or end. The Virethi flagship froze. Weapons powered down. Across the fleet, commanders hesitated. Seretha's breath caught. They're stopping. Elias slumped forward as the access severed itself. The ancient systems went silent forever. Their role complete. Elias collapsed. Sereth caught him. His heartbeat was weak now. His skin cold. The fire that once burned beneath his blood was fading. Elias, she said urgently. Stay with me. He smiled faintly. Hey, did we win? Sereth shook her head, silver eyes shining. No. She pressed her forehead against his. But you changed everything. Human fleets began emerging from hyperspace, scarred, broken, but alive. Virethi ships held position, weapons silent. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy paused instead of burning. Elias exhaled slowly. Figures. Sereth activated medical stasis, pouring everything she had into keeping him alive. Your species will not be hunted again, she vowed. Not after today. Elias's eyes fluttered. Good, he whispered. We're terrible at being extinct. His heartbeat steadied. Barely. Days later, the galaxy rewrote its understanding of humanity. Not conquerors. Not gods. But disruptors. Species that survived bites that should kill them. That lied to perfect machines. That turned hopelessness into strategy. The war did not end that day. But it could never be the same. Because every empire now knew the truth. Humans did not need to be stronger. They only needed time. And somewhere in a quiet medical chamber aboard a repaired ship, Elias Cade slept, alive, impossible, and proof that the universe had underestimated humanity. One last time.
Pues hay que venir, ¿no? Digo, para que nos muevan los sentimientos, mínimo un ratito. Hay que venir a que nos bailen. Quiere que le baile. Y yo, sí, baila. Ya, tu pinche calorón. ¿Qué haciendo, bebo? Hola, Yale. Hola, Uriel, ¿cómo estás? ¿De qué es tu trabajo? ¿Eres repartidor? Efectivamente, güey. Somos repartidores de Uber Eats en México, León, Guanajuato, México. Bienvenido. Hacemos delivery, soy fotógrafo de moda, hacemos IRL randoms de viajes, de lo que sea un poco, de todo un poco, la verdad. De todo un poco, la verdad. Pues bienvenido, güey. Bienvenidos. Ya casi somos 1000 viewers, ¿verdad? ¿Cómo andamos, amigos? Arcross. Esas que dan amor sin verdad ni compromiso. Sí, mejor una de esas. Imagínate que luego nos dan amor real. Luego para que se vayan con otro pendejo. Es que tiene mejor cosa, y mejor esto, y mejor aquello. Chingas a tu madre, mierda. Che gente. Buenas.
¡Hija de la chingada!
Perdón, traen un desmadre.
Se reprodujo esta carta.
Vengo a... del Molino 802.
¡Ábreme, hija de la chingada!
Interior 12.
¡Ábreme!
Espérenme, pendejo. Del Molino 802, interior A12. Sí. Y un buen stream moja. ¿Cómo que moja, güey? ¿Qué ha pasado? ¿Por qué 723 viewers? Creo que estamos en portada de Twitch, güey. Pinche desmadre trae. ¿Va? Just do it. Muchas gracias, Misa. Por esos 10. ¿Sí, cobertura? H6B55B.
De hacer la tarea. No seas huevón.
H6B55B. Chale, güey.
Se
Fue
reprodujo
justo
esta
cuando
carta.
hablan, cabrón. Perdón. H6B55B.
¡Ay, yo puto!
No, cállense, pendejo.
¿No se le para la verguilla o qué? Culero, te
Listo. Gracias. Arigatou gozaimasu. No mames, güey, si se pasan de verga. Están viendo, güey, que están bien putos sordos y